Burlesque Stripped Down, episode number 30. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Velvet Eau Claire, your guide through all of the secrets from us, the ladies and gents behind the tassels. I am very excited to be back with you today for another Hot Tips episode. You may notice that this episode is not indeed going live on a Thursday, as I had promised before. And what I've decided to do is make a small tweak to my publishing schedule. And I will be still rolling out the guest interviews on Mondays, as I have been doing, or have been mostly doing for the majority of it on Mondays. However, I'm going to give myself a little bit more flexibility. This is in part of my overarching goal to be more authentic and be more kind to myself and compassionate and all of those silly buzzwords that we're throwing around now. But give myself just a little bit more flexibility. And so I will tell you that we are going to have a Hot Tips every week, but I'm no longer going to commit to having it out every Thursday specifically. I do work my other job quite a bit during the week, so it can be very difficult to find time to get one done between getting the guest interview up on Monday and then having it to turn around and get something else released for Thursday. So I will still be trying to get them up on Thursdays. It may be somewhere between Thursday and like today is a Sunday. So it may kind of be in that range there, but you can still look forward to having the hot tips from me once a week as well. And actually I may be doing a small change to exactly the format of those. I'll just kind of tease that for now because I haven't set this in place quite yet, but they might be getting a little bit more exciting as well. So keep an eye, and I guess it would be more of an ear, keep an ear open for those. And I've got a really exciting episode coming up next Monday with Professor Pinkerton Xyloma, so definitely check in for that. For today, though, I want to kind of get right into it. I wanted to talk a little bit about setting goals today as a tip, because I think this is really important in addition to, I mean, you know me by now. A lot of you know me. You know that I am very into approaching your burlesque career, your burlesque journey as a career, as a business, as something you take seriously, even if you're not in it to do it professionally or make $1 million. Let's be honest, probably nobody's in this to make $1 million because it's likely not going to happen. But even if you're approaching it from more an amateur or a hobbyist perspective, there is zero things wrong with that. That is absolutely fine. But you should still be taking things a bit seriously and figuring out exactly what it is that you want. Otherwise, you may just find yourself kind of drifting over the next few years, drifting through this burlesque career, maybe not performing as much as you like, maybe not getting the kind of acts out there that you want to. So it's really important to take maybe just an afternoon and really start to examine your goals as a burlesque performer and what you can do to start achieving them. So I want to talk today about some real actionable steps that you can take, because I was actually just listening the other day to a podcast called The Accidental Creative with Todd Henry. And he is a really great, he's a writer himself, but he does a really great podcast and books and blog articles about how to really do what I'm talking about, how to really approach your creative endeavors from a very practical standpoint and make them the most worthwhile and the most effective as they possibly can be. And he had a really great thing to say the other day, and that was, inspiration has a shelf life without action. Inspiration has a shelf life without action. And that just really stuck with me. He said it, kind of in the middle. I don't even know if he, had written that sentence out, particularly if it just kind of came out, but it really stuck with me the whole rest of the day. Inspiration has a shelf life without action. And I think that's so true. Because so often, we talked about this with passion versus purpose. We've talked about this in other episodes as well. So often we get inspired by something and really excited to do something, but that will fade if we don't take action on it. I think of even an act that I was super excited about 2 months ago when I first thought of it, and I didn't act on it right away. And now it has kind of faded and I'm less excited about it. I may still try to kind of revamp that and do something about it, but because I didn't act on it, the inspiration kind of faded a little bit, and now I'm second guessing that inspiration at all. So inspiration has a shelf life if you don't take action on it. So we're going to talk today about some things that you can do to really, really take action for these goals that you are setting for yourself. But first, as far as setting the goals, there's a lot of buzz in the kind of entrepreneurial world or the online marketing world or whichever, all these kind of worlds with a lot of buzzwords. It's a little bit crazy. The big trend is to be setting what we call SMART goals. And if you've never heard of SMART goals, it is actually just an acronym, SMART, that helps you set the kind of goals that are easier and more likely to be fulfilled. And so this acronym stands for, the S is specific. So you want your goal to be very, very specific, not something general like, oh man, I just want to perform as much as possible in 2016 or in 2017. Okay, that's not specific at all. As much as possible. That doesn't tell me anything. So you really want to narrow it down and say something, for this part, say something along the lines of, I want to perform in large shows and then give it a certain number, 25 times in the rest of 2016. Something like that. Because then the second aspect of it, we want them to be specific, and along with that, the M in SMART stands for measurable. So adding in those numbers, adding in the numbers to your goal. So if you want to perform in 25 shows, each of which has more than 100 people in attendance. Those are very specific and they are measurable. You can say, if you do X show next weekend, you will be able to say yes or no, whether that fits in with your goal. There's no question about it. There's no gray area because it is measurable. And if it doesn't hit that measurement, it doesn't count or it doesn't fulfill that goal. The A in SMART stands for attainable. Attainable. And this is going to be a very personal thing. Is it possible? Is the idea of 25 shows in the rest of 2016, is that something that's possible for you? For me, as Velvet Eau Claire, I would know that that was very likely not possible, or at least very unlikely. I would probably try to adjust it a little bit. But it all depends on your particular situation. So try to set goals that are attainable. It is possible to attain in your future. Again, kind of along with that, the R stands for realistic. So be very realistic about your goals, something that you can attain, but that is also realistic. I would also know that, a great deal amount of shows may not be as realistic for me in the Central Florida area because there are quite a few shows that are going on around here, but they have full lineups already. So just simply the amount of shows available to me may not be quite that high. So realistic, something that is more in that you can possibly get to, not just because of, what is in the realm of possibility, but also with knowing yourself, knowing what kind of work you want to put in, knowing what you have on your plate for the rest of the month. Kind of, again, in the realm of possibility. Those two are very similar. The T then stands for time bound, or timely, or something to do with time, however you want to phrase that. And that means that you have an end date to this. It's not just, I want to be a famous superstar like Dita Von Teese, right? That doesn't check any of these boxes. It's not specific. It's not measurable. It's, I'll be honest, probably not too attainable or realistic. And it's not time bound. You want to give yourself an end date, at which point you'll be able to reevaluate the goal itself. So SMART goals are kind of the trend among businessmen and women these days. Some extend it a little bit and make them smarter goals. And I do like that idea as well. I think if I were to recommend something, I would say to do smarter goals. With the E standing for enjoyable, I think it's super important that we remember that our goals should be something that we enjoy doing, something that we want to do, something that gets us out of bed in the morning. So make sure when you're going through this checklist as to whether your goal fits in with these standards, make sure that it's enjoyable for you. You're never going to do it. You're never going to complete a goal if it's not enjoyable. And the R, I changed this one up a little bit because I didn't like what some of the other ones were doing from an English language perspective. The R is reaching. Now, this one word-wise, it's a bit of a stretch, pun intended, but you want to make sure that your goal is a reach for you. Is it something that is not too easy? Okay, again, and this kind of balances out between realistic, but still reaching. It's still something that makes you excited because it's enjoyable, and it's still something that's just a little beyond what you would normally do. And that is what makes it kind of exciting. It may even seem a little bit silly. You want to make sure that you're pushing yourself, because if you set a really low goal that you are sure that you are going to be able to, so if I said, for example, my goal is to perform in 2 shows for the rest of 2016. That may be something that, for some people, that may be a good reaching goal. If they're not quite comfortable performing, if performing is not something that they necessarily want to do, that may be a realistic and reaching goal for them to perform twice. But for some people, it just may not be quite pushing them hard enough. You want goals that are within the realm of possibility, but that also push you forward, because you're never going to make true progress if you don't push yourself just a little bit. Okay? So those are, well, two or one, really. I just call it one because I would definitely encourage you to include the ER on the end of SMARTer goals. So you can approach it certainly from the SMARTer standpoint, and I think they've been proven really well, and they seem to work really well for a lot of people. There's another approach, though, that seems very interesting to me. And this came to me in an email quite a while ago, and I actually had to research it, find it on Google again, because I remembered it and I wanted to include it for you guys. And it's Andrew and Pete I think it's andrewandpete.com. They run a site called Atomic, and it's kind of some business strategies and things like that. And they are kind of against SMART goals. They think SMART goals are boring, that they don't really invigorate you, they don't help you. So they encourage you to set your goals free. And, as I'm sure you may have guessed, FREE is another acronym that they use to kind of encourage a different type of goal that you should set. So for Andrew and Pete, they say your goal should be F is fun. Something not just enjoyable, but downright fun. So when you're looking at your goal, you want to ask these questions. Is it fun? The R, ridiculous. So this goes even further. When I say reaching, I say it's kind of big and out there. They want to go even further than that and just have it be something completely ridiculous. The E being exciting, the first E, because there's two. The first E being exciting, it should be, again, something that gets you out of bed in the morning. And the second E being emotionally charged. It should be something that really hits a chord with you. Internally, not just that makes sense on a logical level, but that really, really emotionally charges you. So that's another approach. If that resonates more with you, you can set your goals free and do it more in that way. I kind of caution against that. I love where the guys are coming from when they come up with that, but I think that it's, at least for me, as I set my personal and professional goals, it's a little bit too likely that I'm going to be like, oh, well, that's a crazy goal anyway. I'm probably not going to reach it. So for me personally, it doesn't quite work to set those type of goals. I would rather than be more in this attainable, realistic realm, but still reaching and enjoyable, these SMARTer goals. There's one last acronym that I actually really enjoyed while I was researching for this episode, and that was from a man named Matt McWilliams, who I wasn't very familiar with, but I was checking out his blog, and it seems very interesting, mattmcwilliams.com. And he says that goals, instead of being smart or smarter, he says that your goals should make you dream. The D would be for daring. The R for wrapped. The E for energizing. The A for actionable. And the M for meaningful. So again, these all have very similar kind of ideas to them or similar ways of kind of getting you through this checklist as to whether your goals fit in with your greater vision for your life. So have a look at these different acronyms, write them down, see which kind of resonates best for you, and maybe try a couple of them out. And then have them up on your wall so that whenever you're working on making a goal, you can really go through this checklist and be like, okay, does it fit this? Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? Is it realistic? Is it time bound? Is it enjoyable? And is it reaching? If SMARTer is the one you choose, which is in fact the one that I recommend the highest. Another approach that actually kind of goes hand in hand. I wouldn't say do one or the other on your goal setting, but I really loved, and I actually heard it initially from Coquette Rouge, who you may remember was on several episodes ago. I actually don't even remember what number episode, but with the Distress Dolls, when I had herself and Allie Boubois that were on the show. And she and I were chatting a little bit later, and she was talking about speaking with some of the girls in her troupe, and this was right around the new year of 2016. And their main way of approaching it, Coquette said, she likes to ask people to vividly imagine what they want their life to be 1 year from now. So really take that that step and put all your other stuff away and take some time to actually sit down and imagine what you want your life to look like 1 year from now. So at that time, it was for when you're ringing in the new year 2017. What do you hope that your life is like? But we can do this anytime during the year. I can sit here today and I can say, okay, what do I want my life to look like on June 26, 2017? Where do I hope I am? Like literally go through a day in the life. You can either do this imagining wise, or for me, what works a bit better is to do some free writing, some no judgmental free writing where I just kind of get it all out on paper, again, without distractions. Because I can sit here and think all day long and have these ideas, but until I get it on paper, it doesn't really resonate as well for me and it doesn't really sink in. So once you've kind of figured out where you want to be a year from now, then we just start breaking that down. Think about and start writing down, what will you need to get there? What will you need to do to get there? What do you need to get done to be in that position 1 year from now? And these can be fairly big things. These don't have to be specific, because then we're going to get more specific. So in your first category, you're going to have what your life would be like 1 year from now. Then in the second part of the page, in order to be at that point 1 year from now, what do I need to get done? What needs to happen? Then we break it down. Okay, so for those things to happen, what would I need to get done in the next 6 months? Then, in order for those things to happen, what do I need to get done in the next month? Then, in order for that to happen, those things to happen, what do I need to get done in the next 2 weeks? In order for those things to happen, what do I need to get done in the next week? And in order for those things to happen, what do I need to get done today? So it's really just an inverted pyramid, starting real big a year from now. You could go a little larger than that, but I always find it's hard to really vividly imagine things 5 years from now because that's just a bit too far for me, at least me personally. I prefer to start with a year because it feels more actionable. So starting with 1 year, what needs to happen? And then just get a little bit smaller and take whatever increments work for you. If you prefer to work in quarters, 3-month periods, that works as well. However you like to kind of break it down. And especially once you get into the more 1 month, 2 weeks, this week, make sure that your goals, as you write them out, are following with this SMARTER or FREE or DREAM, whichever acronym it is that you choose that works the best for you. So I hope this is helpful for you as far as setting these goals. I love having these acronyms that really give me a true checklist as to whether my goals really work as goals and whether they're just kind of dreams and just kind of things that I want to do someday, or if they're actual real goals that are going to move me along on the path towards where I want to be in 1 year. Any questions, any thoughts on this, please don't hesitate. Send me an email, velvet@burlesquestrippeddown.com. You can go over, like our Facebook page, Burlesque Stripped Down, and you can leave some comments there, join the discussion there, or in the comment section of the show notes page for this episode, which will be at burlesquestrippeddown.com/goals. I will also add in some other articles that you can read a little bit further about SMART goals, about SMARTER goals, about free goals, and about dream goals. So if you want to get kind of further into this, definitely read those, then send me an email and let me know what you think. Of course, you can always leave a little voicemail if you want to show me what your voice sounds like. That's over on the right-hand side of any of the web pages over at burlesquestrippeddown.com. Thank you again for pressing play today. Don't forget that on Monday we have Professor Pinkerton. Last Monday, if you didn't listen, it was great. It's so good with Lola Frost. I love that girl so much. And I've got some really exciting things in the works. I will say, too, that once I get Pinkerton's episode up, Pinky, as he said he likes to be called, once I get that episode up, that will kind of empty out my stash of pre-recorded episodes. I did record a whole lot in April, and so I had quite a few pre-recorded. But I will now be starting to record again with new guests. So if you are interested, or if someone you know is interested in being on the podcast, please don't hesitate to send me an email, velvet@burlesquestrippeddown.com, so that we can get you on the show and everybody can hear your story. I would love to hear from as many different people as possible. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, stay loving the summer, stay setting these goals, and stay dreaming big, and above all, stay sexy.